All right. Fantastic. Well, thanks for being here for the financial committee meeting. As all of you remember, you kind of requested this year when we were doing our August approvals that it would be a good idea to try to have a meeting in the fall as well as in the spring, just kind of monitor spending patterns, see how everything's going, take a look at the adjustments we've made, see if they're working, and at the same time, kind of use this committee to, if we have situations that are coming up that we're concerned about, be able to talk through concerns, kind of problem solve maybe mid-year versus at the end, all of which I think are excellent ideas. I think that's something good that we've added in. It makes a lot of sense that'll be very beneficial. So with that being said, as you can see the agenda I have in front of you, most I'll kind of just tag team and kind of take turns presenting and talking through information for you. We have some different specific items that when we get to like school foods that we kind of need some decisions on. The first section is a lot more informational for all of you. And then as we move into school foods, we need to kind of talk through, do a little problem solving. And then as we close up the agenda, we'll kind of finish out like that. So with that being said, Moses, you want to start us off?
Yep. Just like what Brian said, thank you guys for coming in, taking some time off your day. We're super excited to just go over kind of our goals and all the progress that we've been doing through our finance. So we'll start with the general fund as first. As you guys know, last year we had some challenges last year, and this is the end of June 30th, 2024. We ended the elementary general fund. We ended with a deficit of $270,000. That's rounded up, and then as well as the high school deficit of 217. And then so this year, June 30th, 2025, we saw that trend continue, and we were aware of it, well aware of it, that we were going to see that come through. Just some of those things that were hitting us hard. Last year we had a 16% increase in insurance. We also had, potential overstaffing, those wage increases, and then just A and B money that was going to Rocky Boy instead of staying with us. And so this June 2025, we ended at the elementary general fund. We ended with a deficit of $327,000, and then at the high school, $233,000. So we're fixing those out there. So for me, I was able to not use most of our reserves, like our interlocal funds. I was able to be a little bit creative, use some of the excess that we had in transportation funds, some of the miscellaneous, the grant funds that we had extra on. I also used the flex just to kind of offset those deficits so we can kind of go on end the year well, and then we don't have to answer to our auditors. And then so just looking ahead, I'm super optimistic. We had the STARS Act pass and then an inflation bill. And so that brought in this year, fiscal year 26, brought in $1.1 million into our school district within the general fund. And then just looking for the future, like fiscal 28, I know there's going to be a lot more money coming in that way as well. So right now we're looking pretty great. So I'll just kind of go through what we're looking at for the elementary side. So we made some adjustments and some strategic staffings. So we reduced some staffing levels. Last year we were at 90% of the general fund being used for just staffing, benefits, salaries. Right now, as it stands, we're at 87% in the elementary school. Just do some math, and that's nice. That's where we want to be, is around that 9, or between that 80%, 80 to 89%. So that's great. It kind of opens up a little bit more flexibility with what we can do.
And we haven't been at that place for several years.
For a while,
and
yeah.
I know that seems like a small percentage, but that's a really big deal.
It's huge. Yep. And then just based on my early projections, I think, have you guys seen my spreadsheet that I update almost every year, or the last few years anyway?
You guys saw it in August.
Yeah, we saw it.
In August.
Yeah, that shows you kind of just the pie chart and everything, payroll accounted for. So as of right now, my early projections is that we're gonna be 249,000 up. So we've swung that and the whole like 180. So and again, that's us taking out the colonies and getting that STARS Act and that inflation bill, so 1.1 million into our general fund. So we'll be up 249 if everything works out the way we want. And with that surplus, our priorities include just investing in a new math curriculum. That's going to be a lot of money. So with us having that money, that extra, we can help Miss Holly out, and she doesn't have to say no to a lot of like deals. But yeah, we just want to make sure that we have the right math curriculum like going forward. And then so we'll go to our high school. Again, just looking at the adjustments that we made through the staffing levels, we reduced that from 90% last year to about 86% this year, which is again a big turnaround, which is awesome. And then just on my spreadsheets, I just want to make sure that athletics and activities are being accurately budgeted. So at the end of the year, we can actually get this is a solid number of what everything costs through activities and athletics. And then with early projections here, I am approximately 77,000 above our general fund. So 77,000 that we can be flexible with, and again, help out with math curriculum.
So we're 77 of the good, not
Yes.
77 over budget.
Correct.
No, we're,
Okay.
we're in the green. That's what
Okay, I was just reading it wrong. I was like,
Yep, no, so most, let me jump in here real quick.
yeah.
So like we were talking about, as you know, and we sat down last year, Holly and Moses and I did with Tim and Kristen. If you guys remember, we kind of talked through some preliminary plans on how we were going to get here. So while we were talking about the positives of more kids coming in, right? We also made some adjustments to fiscally get whole, which is what we also need to do, right? Because we're tied to that, I believe, as an entity. We have to represent our community well, and we have to be fiscally responsible. And so the good news is we're getting, after a couple of years of a lot of work, to where financially it's working out, right? And so we made those reductions at each school, which is positive. And then there's always the balancing point of monitoring that staff to say, do we have enough to cover, right? So it's just kind of all part of the puzzle. You'll notice in the high school budget's always a lot more difficult because of the sheer volume of activities that we have at Havre High School, right? And our location. So that's a piece of this puzzle as well. Not to mention you have one school versus 4.
Yes.
So just things to think about. Jim.
so is that does that being plus 250 at the elementary and plus 77 at the high school, does that factor in like the school foods?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a whole different,
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So I wish.
This is the good news part, Tim. The bad news is gonna come in a minute.
That's coming like, okay.
Kristen, thank you. For round them, Kim, we're on good news. We're on good news only.
The agenda, but.
That's it. Yep.
All right, and then so that concludes our general funds. So we'll go next to our transportation funds. So everything remains strong and stable in our transportation. Everything that we need to be paid out are being paid out of there appropriately. And again, like just at the end of the school year, if any surpluses are on the transportation, just kind of be creative and be mindful of that. We could possibly also put it into our interlocal at the end of the year, hopefully. That's one big thing. And then just some of the significant purchases that we've had this year, just this school year. So we purchased a new Ford F-150 for about 40,000. And that was used, the transportation funds were used on that vehicle because that's the truck that they use to help out if buses, like our route buses, get stuck or if something happens, engine fail or whatever. That's the one that they use to pull out those buses and back into a bus collection. And just helping those guys out with that truck there. And then again, this is taken out of the bus appreciation, but we just bought 2 new buses and I think they came in about 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
but everything looks great in the transportation. I know we made that adjustment earlier in August. It's okay. So it was a good adjustment. So we're right where we need to be.
And that was the ones that we ordered last year.
Last
Yeah,
January.
okay.
And then we'll get the next.
We'll get the next one like next
The
year.
following. Yep.
And we'll just use our bus appreciation fund on that. Any questions on transportation?
As far as staffing, are we sitting in a better position than we've been, or I know the aging piece was there, but is that still?
I mean, I think
It's
that's,
one that's going to retire at the end of the year, so we'll need another route driver for sure. And then we have a few people who have expressed interest in subbing as relief drivers. So we'll see if we can get them trained. Go from there. Do they get trained here?
Yeah.
Woody's certified to train them, and so is that family. So they can both train, which is really nice.
Yep.
Otherwise, that's 2,500 to 5,000 per person.
Do we let other districts,
we have.
and then we just charge them our employees' time?
That's one, I think I've had some conversations with Scott about that. I think in the past, there'd been some practice where they really didn't probably do a lot of that, more helping, just kind of help people out kind of a thing. But as we look in the budget, like Moses and I just had a meeting yesterday with high school activities, right? And so we're trying to pick through all of those little things on ways that we can recoup costs that also help out us. Right? We don't mind helping out and doing the right thing, but at the same time, we have to be thoughtful and mindful of our own expense.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna train, if another
Right.
district needs somebody trained, there's nothing wrong with Argus helping train them, but at
Right.
least we shouldn't be incurring the cost, the weekly cost of that employee.
Yep.
Knowing that it's on there.
It's kind of like Paul Holly and I had the situation with the residency teacher program. And if we spend said cost to train up the teacher and pay for insurance and things like that, then we're going to find a creative way to retain you for 3 years versus letting you go somewhere else.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like a good deal. Yeah.
All right, our next one is our building reserves. So our building reserves they remain in a strong financial position here. So they historically been well managed and a portion is already placed in. And it's going to be in investment accounts. And I might bring that to you guys in December, but like how much I'm gonna reinvest. As of right now, the budget for the elementary building reserve that we adopted in August was 1,095,000. And then the high school building was 472. And then our cash balance are really good. Right now sitting at the elementary side, we're sitting at 752,000. And then at the high school side, 338,000. And then we're just, before I do any kind of investment, we just want to review and prioritize any upgrades that we have in the school district. And we just want to make sure that schools remain safe, functional, and well maintained. Just some of the things that we've used our building reserve funds for this year, and this is current list that we have. So right now on the elementary side, so just installation of new carpet in the sped director office, payroll office, and then the nurse's office here at the Robbins building. We've also used the elementary reserves for new carpet for the band and choir rooms at the middle school. We bought a new storage shed for Lincoln McKinley. And then, of course, this summer we worked on like one side of the roof, getting that replaced at Sunnyside schools. And then for your high school here, and this is just everything that we've taken out of those building reserves. At the high school, we did the drilling and installation of the new stadium well. Built that out there, and then the electrical hooked up and just anything related to that well. Just to help improvements at the stadium.
Wasn't there talk about Highland Park being re-roofed or?
Yeah, that'll be for the future.
Okay.
Yeah, he's just saying
Oh, not
current to
yeah.
date.
Yeah, this
But
one's
like when, like when I went through all of those projects and stuff, so that'll be slated kind of as a summer.
And then the sunny side was gonna be
We're gonna
a
keep
little
moving
here,
forward to
there, and finally work out.
Well, we're gonna kind of stagger it in, as we looked at this, Kevin, outside of then acquiring like a large scale grant, something that could come in where you could just do the entire roof. Scott, Moses and I and Holly kind of sat down and decided we were gonna start doing the most necessary sections.
Yes,
And then just doing them like in the summer at a time, right? Just kind of start knocking them off that way. That way we can handle it all internally and not have to go out and create, whether that was a big levy expense or a bond or a larger scale situation. So we've kind of figured out a rotation, how we can handle that. Like Highland Park, the most immediate need is over the gym. So that's what we'll go after. And then we've got, Sunnyside broke out into like 3 summers worth. We have 1 done now, and then we'll take the next two summers and kind of cascade the project like that.
Moses, is there a requirement if you permissive levy your residents? And so you're collecting these funds, is there a requirement for you to use those funds for building investments within a certain time period? So you're not just taxing without their permission or letting them vote and then just holding on to that money? Is there a requirement then that you have to invest it in your buildings and your assets by a certain
I have to
date?
check, I have to check on that.
Okay.
I think you're right. I
Yeah,
think there is
okay.
a part to it, so.
And generally levies are for learning and bonds are for building.
Yeah.
That's how I remember them.
Well, just the permissive levy right goes to our building reserves, so that's why I was kind of questioning it.
Cause I know for bonds, you definitely have to.
Right.
It's a time to with bonds. So.
But it just seems odd that you could tax your residents in a levy without their vote and then not do anything with the money and just sit on it and let it collect interest, right? And not reinvest it in a community asset. So that was just my question is like, if we have this much in funding and our budget, is there an amount that we
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
spend, that we have to utilize, each year or something
Mhm.
like that?
Well, I'll definitely check it out for you. Cause I know this fund for sure, like you can build it, like as long as you have a project in mind, you can keep building.
Yeah, to save money for that
For that
project.
project,
Yeah,
So like your roof at Highland
Mhm.
Park, it's gonna be huge expense. I know that you can just keep building, so you're not taxing
right, for nothing.
huge for
Yeah.
everything, every year, so.
I guess the next question I remember, they were talking about boilers or whatever in some of the facilities. Did those get taken care of, or are they still on the list?
Still on the list.
Yeah.
Okay.
And those are pretty expensive too, Kevin.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll go to the next one. So this one is our student activities, just on how we ended. So our student activities, the one that you guys are aware of, so this is outside of our general fund. This is kind of just on its own, their athletic funds. So this one, they ended this year with a negative balance of 23,000. Again, it's a positive because it wasn't over 100. So we'll take that.
We made a big impact.
We made a big impact, just making some changes there. And just making sure that everybody's, within a budget. And then we're just monitoring this as we go forward, and just seeing what we really need to do at the end of the year, so we don't keep having those deficits instead we're being sustainable. Mid-year projection, at the same time, right now, the books for October is pretty much closed. And the fund balance there is 48,000 in the athletic funds. Compared to last year, it was 44. So I believe that Jordan and Dustin are doing a good job of monitoring those athletics. I know Dustin has taken kind of a leadership in just helping Jordan make sure that everything's the right way. And I think Dustin's even bringing back some of the old school stuff that he had when he was coaching. So, which is great. And that stuff is like the meals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the budget with the meals. Dustin brought that back, which is awesome. Like they have a budget. If coaches go over, that overage is taken out of their own personal sport line or their sport fund. So
Yeah, activity. Yeah, so we decided which, Kraski and Jordan was nice. So Moses and I met with them and we kind of are following the same suit now. So we're gonna have a fall meeting on activities and we're gonna have a spring meeting on activities so that we can kind of monitor these accounts. And, I like, because I went to bring it up and Kraski was immediately on it because, he said, what we're doing then is if that rolls over right in your own football account, and you want to do more than the allotted amount, then that's coming out of the money that you as a coach fundraised and stuff, right? Like, so it's not, you're not gonna have more. We're not, because we had to do a lot of work to get the spending on meals
yeah,
retained. Because I'm gonna tell you what, guys, I've never seen anything like it. Like, it was out of this world compared to what our kids had to see. So I was just blown away. So that now is on point. So that's a big one.
Yeah.
Some other things and activities too. Moses, I'll just jump in as you know. This year we're gonna charge for track and field, which is gonna be really good. So that's gonna be, I think that'll help offset a lot of costs. And then I had Jordan after yesterday's meeting, I said, I want you to research the west side and the east side of the states for activities fees. Right? We don't want to go through the roof, but at the same time, it's okay we are by far and away the lowest on what we charge at 35. It's not even in the ballpark. Right? We've seen it all the way up to 120 to a sport. Typically it's 100. Right?
Here's like for
Right.
students.
Yes, for students.
Pay to play.
Yeah, so we're not even close. So that's another area we can kind of gain some ground with. So, and then we're also, which Jordan I know will do, he loves this kind of stuff, is, the conversations we had between the Armory, Havre High School. We can host divisionals basketball. We can host divisional track. We can host divisional tennis, softball, all of these entities that we just haven't done, right? Because it's twofold. Then we're not having those costs to travel, but also it's beneficial for our district, right, in our community, because they're bringing in all that activity through the Havre. So, those adjustments, I think, will continue to just shrink that amount in the overage to the smallest possible. And then I can feel like on my end that we've done all the things that are within our control. The part we can never control is where we live and how far we drive, right? That's just a piece of the puzzle. Successful teams travel more. We want that. Those are, right? So those are some things that we can't control. But if we can control those other pieces, we're doing the very best job we can in the district, I believe.
What about uniforms?
So uniforms come out of the general fund.
Are they all local? Are they all?
Like where we purchase them?
Local? Yes.
I wouldn't say they're always local. I've had conversations with Jordan to try to do as much purchasing locally as possible.
I know the individual at Master Sports that has her business down there. I don't know if she does all of them, but I know there's one that she doesn't do. And I don't even know if she had the opportunity. Yeah, I'm not just being forced, but
We try to do as much business locally as possible. And Kevin, I know sometimes, just if there's a quote that's gonna fit the budget a little bit better, or it's an item that's hard to get locally, we're gonna have to outsource and go that way. But we do try, and that was conversations like I had with Mark all the time. Okay, if you do this out of town, then on the flip, pick back and do this one at Havre, right? And we've done the same, try to balance between, like when we do projects, between Brandon's here for Carp there and Valley the next time, right? So we're trying to keep that the best we can. But sometimes there may be a different opportunity down in Great Falls at Universal that might really fit the budget better.
One thing I was curious about is, so we have the athletic fund, we have the general fund. Is the athletic fund, if we brought in all these other revenue sources and the athletic fund was doing really well, could you shift things like uniforms out of the general fund over to the athletic fund? Or is the athletic fund really limited in what it can pay for?
Yeah, I think we need to create up this.
So, okay, so if we brought in, divisionals and things like that, that could potentially free up money in our general fund if we could shift that over.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And that's like when we had those huge deficits, you remember like in my first year, we had to then shift over funding to offset those
Right.
costs because it was so enormous. So, yep.
And Jordan has some great ideas on how to bring
Yeah, he's got a lot of really good
Yeah.
ideas. Yeah, he's
We'll see if it comes through.
Yeah.
Cool.
It comes through.
Yep.
That's cool, because a lot of those ideas are more work for him, and
They are.
so it's cool that he's on board and thinks that'd be
I
exciting.
love it. Yeah, he's got one for like a spring golf tournament that, he's telling some of the numbers that he was generating at us and both Moses and I were like,
Let's do it.
Take
Do
it.
it. Anything that you can do,
Fabulous, Jordan.
Tell us more.
Tell us more, Jordan.
Yeah.
Good.
Which is great. It's a good news. So, all right. So the colony budget. So here we go. Kind of just, we're going to go over how they're looking. Last year, as you guys are aware, we transferred over $353,000 just to Rocky Boy because the colonies were still attached to that district. As of right now, they're with us and we're going to keep that money. Just on Hilldale, their projected budget is 235,730. And then at East End is 129,837. And that's just by A and B, how many students they have. So that's how that budget is kind of broken, how I broke it down, is by what students they have there. One of the biggest things I can tell you guys is they are gonna have, if we just kind of isolate their budget.
521 feet above sea level.
If we just isolate just their budget, they are gonna go over. Right now, I love how I told you guys how the general fund, like salaries and benefits. So right now, 98% of their budget is tied to salaries and benefits. So I mean that leaves you with bare nothing basically. And so just to keep these budget at whole, Hilldale is basically 12,139 that we need to recoup. And this is just like supplies, all the internet, phone bills, any repairs to their vehicles. So that's what that 12,000 is for. And then on the East End side is 5,600 that they're gonna be either recouping us or we just gotta figure out where we're gonna take that money out from.
And that was written in that any of these overages, they're going to have to keep on this.
Correct. And so from here, we have a meeting, Moses and Holly and I do with Colony and its leaders right after Thanksgiving break to then go through those numbers. We want you to see them first. And then we're going to meet here in the band room, kind of like we usually do a couple times a year with them and just kind of show them the numbers and make it very clear that, as we figure out how to really educate the colony, because the first year there was been 8 million moving parts, right? And Holly's been doing a fabulous job. Jordan and navigating a lot of weird hiccups that, of course, start with any new project. But in that, to say, if we want to keep this partnership moving forward and doing the best job for your kids, which I believe they want to, just like you're saying, Tim, you're going to have to help us offset these costs. And it's in the contract and they know and they seem very fine with it. Versus having the other option, which is rolling the transportation opportunity, them not taking it and having to handle all the education themselves.
Okay.
So we believe they probably will. They didn't seem to have any issue with it before, so.
And at East End, we currently only have one teacher. We don't have a paraprofessional out there yet. So
And you're planning to get one, right?
we would like
Yeah.
one because
Yeah.
18 is the max that we can have, and he has 18.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, it would be very wise to have two adults.
Yeah.
So that deficit could increase if you are able to hire.
I budgeted where it
Oh, it's
it has.
Oh, it's already-
If it was,
It's in there, right? It was fully staffed, yeah.
That makes
And that's just like straight supplies, guys, like everything that they need, new books, like I said in the bottom, like just new books, new curriculum materials. Cause we've already, like I told Miss Holly last week, Miss Holly, we talked about colonies. I think we've spent about 3,000 just in Hilldale, just on, like getting them new books and like new reading materials and curriculum. So
One thing we didn't know, when the Rocky Boys staff left, they took their books with them. So like all the reading books, you know, like you'd see in a little
Yeah.
kid's library.
Yeah.
The books were gone.
I wouldn't have even thought about
Because the teachers had bought them themselves with their own money.
Yes, the teacher said, these are my books and I'm taking them with me.
East End was fine, they left everything, but although they had bought everything themselves, and so that's only fair if you're going to
Yeah.
continue teaching that you take your own supplies, but.
So that was when we were like this.
Do they use technology at all, like Chromebooks,
Yes.
or they
Yeah.
do what they?
and that's the thing too, we might need some new stuff there. I know Aaron and Colton have done a great job. They've been going back and forth, just fixing their internet, like fixing new boxes. So yeah, just to help them out with their technology as well. So that's all included in that deficit that they have there. And then just again, I think you guys know, but we bought vehicles for them. We bought 2 vehicles for teachers, our staff members to go up there and go back or go up and back. So I just want you guys to know that.
Yep.
And we spent 50,000.
And then, but those can be used,
Yes.
if they're not in school, we're using those for different,
For whatever.
running students.
Yes.
Yep.
It's pretty nice.
Yep.
Um,
And the colonies handling fuel costs.
Which is,
all.
we haven't
Yeah.
seen any fuel like receipts or anything. They've handled it. So
so are they just filling up out there? Is that?
Yep, that's what they do.
I think that's what they do. Yeah.
Okay.
I assume they're four-wheel drives, considering
Yeah.
where the colonies are located.
And that was one of the biggest things that they wanted was can't go through that mud. Just immediately. Yeah.
Maybe sideways.
Yeah.
That's kind of the fun of driving on.
We did try that, didn't we?
All right. So
So it's not been a windfall of cash for us this year.
Not been a windfall of cash, Tim, no. I think
it's just nice to have. I mean,
I think the trade-off is, right, like we kind of talked about too, is the connection between the colonies and Havre, right? So we're keeping that community situation going because Holly and I have seen, right? So this year at our superintendent meetings, we have a rep from OPI that is attending all of them, which is nice. But like out at CJI and some of these other districts that have colonies, when they just have straight denied them, they're in a jackpot situations now with the state. And so it's one, if you can get them to agree to pay entity overages and you get it to where it's working out well, I think you're better off continuing to move this system than just throwing a stop gate on it because it'll be bad.
After this first year, do you predict that 98% is gonna go down?
possibly, I think in Hilldale, because they're getting a lot more kids next year, I believe. Right, Miss Holly? I think 11, 12.
But we'll have to move and get a third teacher
Yeah. So
because we're right at the max.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you're saying,
And then-
Tyler, always initial start costs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
East End only had 1 kindergarten student this year, and so if they have more next year than graduate, then that could push that as well.
and Tyler with the salaries, this is everything. So
Yeah, no, I understand.
Man, like so.
Yeah. I was just thinking with initial cost that 98% would drop next year, especially since we had to buy all books and stuff.
Yeah.
And they did leave a lot of curriculum out there lately, but left everything, so.
Do they follow our curriculum, like, are they reviewing, no, they're not reviewing that this year?
Well, we'll review that form.
Oh,
But it's tricky too because it's really hard to pick up that book and teach kindergarten, first, second, potentially third grade, all one grade level when they can do something like Saxton, which allows the lessons are set up by a daily basis and all the materials are listed and you can just pull, and so you could have small groups and you rotate them through, kind of like we do with differentiating our groups based on their needs. But it would be really hard to have a complete textbook set like that, in my opinion, and teach 4 or 5 grade levels a day and be able to have enough time to do a really good job of it.
makes sense.
That's what the teachers out there before said. They really appreciated this other one. Yeah, because of the flexibility it provided.
Yeah.
But other things, as we update, I would think we'd update there too.
Does it have a lower turnover? Like the teachers that stay there kind of get vested or not so much?
One of the teachers that was there had been there for 18 years and her para had been there like 20.
Yes.
One of the colonies. And the other one of the teachers had been there for 2 or 3 years and the other ones had rotated quite a bit. So it kind of just depends on.
It seems like once they find somebody that likes that environment, they never want to go back. They never want to go back to a regular.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If you can find somebody that likes that environment, they'll stay there forever because they don't want to go back to a regular classroom.
Some nice flexibilities and
Yeah.
you get great bread in your car and everything.
No, just
Yeah.
choose to speak them.
Most of them are, yeah.
There's
more-
been trades.
More siblings
There's been
discipline
trades,
than other things.
I had to watch the kid get wailed on, but there's no discipline issues.
You move down and go around the corner.
Oh,
Go around the corner for that.
Kind of look good.
oh, the sky.
So just go to the next slide here, guys. So next is just, we're gonna talk about, is that still right? Is that on the?
Yep, future.
Okay, so elections and just levy options. So just for your considerations, there are some, so we're gonna have to make a resolution December 9th. Yeah, December 9th, board meeting. And so one of the big things that I just went to a clerk's meeting and one of the things that they said is with your resolution, you can add whatever levy you want, but you can't go back later and add, like you can't add it. So we were like, all right, if we want to run a general fund levy, we don't put it on there. We want to run it in spring, can't put it. So what they advise us to do is put everything in the resolution while we approve it on the December board meeting.
To be evaluated.
Evaluated,
Right.
right, Tim, and then so the biggest thing with that as well, like you can also, I think,
You'll notice I can put that in your pack.
yeah, I think it's April 3rd that you can say, hey, we're not running a levy. So you can always delete, can't add on. And then so some of the things that we have here, just, I know that the general fund levy, I know we'll have one in the elementary side. Last year, tried to write it, but it didn't go through. I think this year, just to get our max budget, is gonna be about 200,000+ for the whole levy this year. Just again, I like having that flexibility, but at the same time, I also understand like where we are as a community. And then another levy that could be possible to vote on is the building reserve levy. And so they got some new laws out here in the state where you can use building reserve money for school and student safety. So some of the things that you can do that, just installing or updating locking mechanisms, installing or updating bullet resistant windows, also installing or upgrading emergency response systems. So just some of those things. And they also have another part where it goes with school safety. And I know that we have talked about just kind of like improvements. And one of the big improvements that we talked about is just possibly getting new phones for the whole district. So that's something that we can build into a building reserve levy if it's voted in. We can get a certain amount of how much it's gonna cost and we can ask taxpayers if we want to vote it on. So.
When we did our COPS grant, there was a component that they came back with and said, this would be really great if you could add this on. And I think it tied in the phones, but it was also like a light system or something. Right?
And screens.
Yeah.
Screens.
Yeah.
So it seems like that would maybe fit within this funding potentially as well.
Yes.
If-
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just something to consider. That's something new that they put in for these elections. And then again, so the trustee positions that are open, trustee Shealy, trustee Johnson, and trustee De La Vega. So those positions are opened for voting.
I have it on that. Real quick, so on innovative tax opportunity. So we just got out, we've been kind of navigating the flyers and information, all with that. So we just got that out yesterday to have put on the website. So now the website, which is gonna run through right till the middle of January, has a pop-up that has all the forms you need, the flyers, here's what that looks like. We have, perfect, we have that, rolling out in the paper. So this year, I think, last year we ended up bringing in, 50,000 with this. But Moses and I, Holly, we really think we can do substantially better than this. Well, that was nice and wonderful. I think we can kind of canvas a little bit better. So the foundation's gonna be flagging it. We have the radio station is gonna be flagging it. I think we're gonna do a larger scale ad in the Havre Chronicle. Just kind of keep pushing that information. But on December 11th, Moses and I, Kylie, went through and kind of put together all the businesses, banks, accounting firms, all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna go with Moses this year, do a lot of handshaking. We're gonna have the day articulated on where we're gonna go, visiting people ahead of time so that when they start to go into taxes or tax questions, hey, by the way, you can donate to the school of your choice. And we are in Havre. Right, kind of. So hitting that from that standpoint, I mean, Great Falls grabs $1 million a year doing this.
Yeah.
So we feel like, well, we're not gonna get that.
Yeah.
We can probably do a lot better than 50,000, right? And it's super beneficial because it's all for transformational learning, right? Transformational learning, dual credit, dual enrollment opportunities, right? There's a ton of things that you can fit under transformational learning. So we're really trying to market that this year. We saw, an initial positive of 50, but I think there's a lot more opportunities, right? And then on the 21st, Moses will sit down with Kylene, feverishly try and grab all the money that's in the state. Is it 7.2 million?
7.2 million.
Oh,
This
It's available.
up for grabs.
So that's on January 15th, is that?
21st.
21st.
They do the third Tuesday in January. I think that's what they said.
So we're gonna really try to push that to help offset, in terms of that. Now, there also is kind of to bend back to the colony. I know they had mentioned, so when we meet with them, that they really wanted to get involved in donations with this, so we're gonna kind of talk through that with them as well. But they potentially had some large scale donations they were interested in doing. So, there could be some big benefits, but as Moses and I've kind of ran through this year 1 to year 2 now, we're making a lot more adjustments to kind of canvas and get out a lot more information, hopefully bringing back a lot more donations. Last year, then we did thank you cards on a lot of stuff. So then we were talking yesterday, kind of getting it up on the website. Great Falls actually then has all their donors publicly thanked and stuff. So we're going to kind of transition to that on ways just to then kind of make sure that we're acknowledging all the work that's being done. But that's another big one that's coming up that has the ability to bring in some good money to offset for our district. So I think that'll be positive.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, have you guys seen the flyers? Do we have a copy of them?
I can go print one up and bring them.
Fabulous. Okay, well, that's great. Oh, you will. You will, Tim. Better comment.
And so we can go back to school foods.
Okay.
So school foods.
Now brace yourself.
I have a pretty good idea of what this says.
So I just been working with Rachel to just kind of reduce or help try to reduce her monthly purchasing. We're not seeing a huge significant change right now, but we're just trying to help each other out just to make sure that we can reduce, but at the same time, provide meals to our students. We don't ever want to say no to our kids eating. So, and here are your support Fridays. Last year, we recorded 8,764 unclaimed breakfasts and lunches for support Fridays. So if we had that money and we got reimbursed from the state, it would have been $34,276 that we just as a district absorbed. And then so we're being mindful with that, and it just kind of leads on to this whole with us trying to make sure that we're getting our MCS discount, and that's that partnership with MREA. we're just trying to make sure that every time Rachel orders something, that we get that discount that was promised to us. We've been struggling on that end, getting that, but we're slowly getting some answers on what's happening.
And why is that? They're just not crediting you the discount or?
So, I mean, Rachel was telling us that she was working with a local lady here for Cisco, and she was actually giving us a better discount than what MCS was giving us. Yeah.
When we were promised by MCS that that was the lowest, right?
Right. And then we're doing side by side comparison. And right now, I mean, with MREA, they want us to have 70% of our purchases, our food purchases, go through Cisco, but it's cheaper at US Foods. So it just,
So we were like,
it's just hard to
Yeah.
kind of justify like, hey, we're gonna go with Cisco, but US Foods is cheaper.
Right.
And then again, like we're trying to really hit this producer partnership. I haven't received anything or any calls yet.
yeah,
Nothing yet, but we're hoping. We're hoping.
Yep.
I'm very hopeful and optimistic about that, and that can help. That can help offset a little bit some of our Sport Fridays, hopefully.
Yeah.
And again, just moving forward, I'm cautiously optimistic. We're moving the right direction. We've had efforts of reducing staff. I think we reduced 1.5 FTE this past year, so hopefully that helps a little bit. And we just want to be overall. We just want to make it again the word sustainable. We want to make our food program sustainable through the years and not having to pay them out.
yeah, like Moses talked about. So we made that 1.5 adjustments as well as then, which I saw Carol's.
Yes.
Yeah, so we got Carol Wolf is retiring. And so then another way to adjust this has been to take the food and do all the production of the food in the kitchen at the high school and eliminate that position out of Lincoln McKinley. So that's another way to kind of drop off and offset some of the costs. If you remember last year, school foods is one that we were struggling with, and almost 35,000 alone was just built into Sport Fridays. And so that's what I wanted you to see on this front sheet is we've made a lot of adjustments, right, in terms of staffing and all the cart services to recoup money there. It's kind of like same as activity budget, right? It's multifaceted. There's a lot of different areas that get this down to a level where it is. Because it sounds simple enough, right? If you notice, like on that second item in your packet, that, well, but we're, school-wide title and we're getting, free meals, like you shouldn't have any issue there. But it's these extras like Support Fridays that eats it up. And because it's not new education, meaning it's not a required instructional day, right? Because we're offering support, right?
Not
You can make the
mandatory.
test, it's not mandatory, right? And so I visited with Jake extensively on kind of how that looks. And because we're not moving forward with all of our kids, they're not required to come with new instruction. You could choose to come or not. We're never going to get reimbursed for this. And so these are areas I wanted you all to know and think about. But if we're ever going to be holding school foods, the topic of Support Fridays, which is one, we've talked back and forth on, is something to consider if this is where we ultimately want to get is having a balanced budget in school foods. Because the current system we have, it just isn't sustainable and doable with Support Fridays. Because we'll never get reimbursed for it.
Do they, when they look at Support Fridays ahead of time, do they use the alt or the maximum student participation? Or are they able to kind of like average it out?
For each individual Support Friday, every student logs in individually, and so we have exact counts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So like reading through the email, she basically says like if you went a half day, you could get paid for it, but you have to make that half day mandatory. So that's the big issue, is
That's
if
the big
it's
issue.
not a mandatory,
Yes.
they won't pay it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, that's the issue. And then we kind of talked back and forth too. Well, you could say, which I didn't feel like that would be in anyone's best interest this year, right? Like, because we can't then start that and then not give kids food.
Yeah.
So you could say, well, we're going to offer this without food. But that's kind of a philosophical thing. We kind of probably have to come together as a team. So that would be a way to offset it, or we just decide that, we're gonna recoup these costs, we're gonna move forward and not have support Fridays anymore. So that's another option, but to continue to move forward like we are, we're always gonna be at a deficit.
Do you think they could get rid of support Fridays? The attendance is so large that almost surprises me if that would really.
And that one, Kelly, is like Kristen and Tim sat on in with this when we did negotiations. It's one from the teachers union. I know that they're really they would love to see that occur.
Okay.
And so that's been again a philosophical piece in the road to say we have really good attendance over here, right? We believe it's making an impact with kids. But it's one that definitely is divided in terms of those who really do not want support Fridays to continue and those that do, right? And so we have portions of our district that are like, hey, when this situation came in, we were told this was going to be a 1-year thing. And here we are, year 3, and we still have support Fridays. It's not a direction we want to go, right? And so for like Holly and I, we try to evaluate all that information to do what's best for kids, and then think about staffing numbers and abilities to retain good employees and keep them here versus having them go to other schools in the Highline now that all the schools are 4-day.
Kind of some history here, Kelly, is that the interim superintendent, this was a question he was asked. And he went to and worked with the teachers union to get them to propose this 4-day calendar with supports. So that proposal came from the teachers union, not the district. And one question he was specifically asked is, will meals be paid on that support Friday? And he said yes. And it seems that things were being maybe turned into OPI in a way that wasn't accurate for a while. So this has all come to light in kind of the past year. But with that being said, the parents now really like the support Fridays. The community likes the support Fridays, as we're seeing in the participation numbers. We also did a survey, the calendar committee did a survey, I guess it was 2 years ago, probably now, and said, do you like the supports? And they overwhelmingly said yes. So again, it's a balance between, okay, this is something the union proposed, it was approved. We have this issue, this is what the community is saying. And so there, like Brian said, there's a lot of different opinions and moving parts with this. So just some background so you don't feel like we entered into this knowing there would be this huge deficit in our school.
Yeah, 100% no. Yeah, we had no idea. And it was the same thing, Kelly, too, when after my first year, we picked through with transportation too. Because then conversely, right, Kristen, then we didn't think we could get reimbursed for the support Fridays with route.
Right.
And then Shanna kind of filled in over the summer before we had Moses. And I sat in on a Zoom meeting and found out we can be getting reimbursed for these. So then a year ago, we started getting reimbursed when
We're offering it to everybody.
yeah, like, so, you know what I mean? Kind
Getting
of
every
picking
route.
through this supports to find out what's reimbursable, what
And
isn't.
just really weird.
Yeah.
Transportation, no food.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
It's one of those things.
and I don't even know if Brad was submitting it, because right as we went to it, then.
Yeah.
Then he also became our clerk, and there was a disaster there.
Oh, man.
That was a disaster.
So there was a lot. Yeah.
But school foods had been operating at about $130,000 to $160,000 budget yearly anyways. So nobody knows if his plan was just to roll that into the deficit anyways.
Correct, too.
Like there's a lot of pieces that it's like, what the heck? And then Moses is trying to figure out how to make these things balance, and well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean we have to figure this out? Well, we're gonna. So that's just like, there's a lot of things that were promised by an individual and said that these things were good, but in reality, that's not.
It didn't come forward.
Well, I mean, the vote to accept it came before the board, but when you're told that this is what you're getting.
Right.
And those,
Right.
not all those pieces
Right.
are accurate.
That's what I'm talking about, the little pieces were brought to the attention of the board.
Well, he hid the fact, the questions were asked, but he just lied to us. Okay, we just had one more thing after another.
Yeah, right.
Like, I understand it from a faculty point, it's a lot more work, but I also look at it from a community point.
Mhm.
When you cater to something and then you take it away, it feels like you're taking it away where people ask me all the time and I'm like, I don't know, look at that teacher now who is definitely working more hours because that's just the reality of it.
Right. Right.
And the classes are longer, the school days are longer, just a lot.
Yep.
The other interesting thing with the supports is our academic numbers have improved.
So,
And also our attendance has improved, but
And our discipline has
I
gone
think the
down
person,
Some areas.
some areas.
So the
Most-
question
Most
also,
schools.
also the question has become, well, could we do it and not provide meals on that day?
right.
But when this whole calendar shift was discussed, that was also a concern coming overwhelmingly from the community, is that you have a lot of students who don't have access to food at home and they really need whatever foods and meals they can get from the district. But I think the question now is, can the district provide that, given that we have
So like those backpack lunches that we give to those lower income kids, is that out of this budget? So where's
Boys
that
and
come
Girls Club sponsors
Yeah.
those,
from? Boys and Girls Club sponsors that.
which we were at $9,000 worth by the end of
That's
September. But that's not sustainable for them either.
Yeah.
Town pump used to do it.
Right. Yeah, they're getting out of the game.
Yeah, so those programs are gonna come to an end too. And that's gonna put a lot of weight on our shoulders.
Correct.
To either swallow this.
Yes.
But it's also in the public's eye too, because I'm getting a lot of questions from not just teachers, but other parents, like, why are we doing this if it's costing $60,000?
Right.
And that's it. And so that's kind of the trade-off. And that's where, is when we're kind of lining this out. I want to just kind of have this open discussion to really make sure everybody kind of knows on the same page that when you look at like between the high school kitchen and, reducing some staffing, we can offset some of these costs, which we have, right? You're taking that from 60 and cut some of these by doing the staffing numbers and stuff. So it's doable and it's possible. But just like with the education of our kids, you can only cut so much and then run an effective program, right? Like, so there's that threshold. And then there's knowing that there's a program out there that we're always going to run in the negative with because there's nothing we can do about.
So just to clarify, on this, the Support Friday deficit is just to make the numbers around, let's say $35,000. And then the additional $25,000 to get us to the 60% deficit was coming from like a la carte staffing. So we're kind of trying to shore up the $25,000.
Yep.
But the 35 is the true cost
Correct.
of the Support Friday
Correct.
meals.
Yeah, kind of having that activities budget, I felt like Moses and Holly, just that if we can kind of go through and see everything that we can do on our power first to keep programs going right and eliminate all of those extra expenses is the best way to do it first, and then see what's left and maybe is that uncontrolled variable, like living in Havre and having to travel to buildings, right? Just is what it is. Supports, if we want to have them, just is what it is. We can eliminate, shore up these other parts, but that cost is just probably a factor of having.
okay, I have a question here. A little while back, you was talking about someone retiring at Lincoln McKinley and they're not gonna be replaced. I'm sure
That's piece.
that salary is probably way more than the 34,000 some dollars. And is that factored into that deficit right there?
Not right now, not right now.
So just one
Just-
person retiring and not being replaced, if I understood things correctly, okay? And it's being shifted to the high school, Well, that's gone doing things the same way that we are every day. And then if you find ways to cut that budget, to account for no one wants to have 8,700 and some meals extra over that time frame. I don't know. It's like a lot of things, there's easy question, but hard to come up with the solution, Those are the questions I have on that. Is that going to be as big of a deal with the things that you had already talked about as what it is right now? Just a question. I don't expect an answer on that because there's probably way more to it than just those numbers there.
And we know we have to start filling some of those positions that we've let go through attrition
Yes.
because we didn't fill a science position a year before and then again last year. We don't have any flexibility. And if we continue that way, we're sending more students to Northern.
Yeah.
Great for the community, great for rural credits, but
Well,
at what
community is-
expense too.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to be,
Trades.
I think our personnel budget will be higher next year just because there are those
Yeah.
positions that
I
we were
understand.
able to not fill right now, but will have to be filled next year.
I totally understand that in the community, 2 times in a row, folks down mill levy. So obviously things get cut. It's not on us anymore. They don't want to support us. You have to make decisions that serve no one good, including all of us, and the important ones are the students and then the teachers, kind of in that order.
Yep.
Now, the teachers, I'm talking about the contract, 4 days, and I hear it's a lot more work for them now because they're putting in more hours. Well, they were the ones that proposed it. We know that someone else was involved with this. And I would find it very difficult to do away with support Fridays when you have a real high, satisfaction with it, with the parents and I would assume a lot of the students and stuff. I can look at my teaching, I can look at my daughters when they were teaching. Every weekend was filled with correcting papers. Every single weekend. They didn't have time during the day with all that stuff go home to the families. So every weekend, a pile of papers. And I believe that was said during the negotiations of this Support Friday. I shouldn't say negotiations, but that was one of the advantages when that was being pushed for, is that they would also have Fridays where they could get some stuff done and actually have at least one day free, if not 2, depending how they choose to spend their time, on doing some of those things. So I guess, the other alternative, switch back to 5-day school weeks. Well, I'm not recommending that, but I think they feel that what we're doing now is way better than what the 5-day school week was. So I'm very reluctant to cut the support Fridays because I think there's a lot of goods, even some of them that are going into the gym. I remember when we took the tour and it was right after that and Krasky says, we have kids coming in, be in the gym, lift weights, this, that, just to visit. It's usually in school, less likely to get in trouble. Those kind of things, but they're involved with things is what it is. So might seem like a lot more work now, but at the time, it's, from everything that was said, it seems like it's a lot less work than what it was.
Any other thoughts with this? And so kind of really the big picture, and Kevin, like you mentioned, there's other adjustments that can be made, but as we move forward, kind of with Support Fridays right now, right, we have them running through till the next negotiation session, which isn't until the spring of 26, 27. So that's what we have factored in. That's what we have agreed in the CBA, right? Because that's really kind of guides our practice with that. So it's in there for now. So there's a little time But as we get to then the springtime and we're monitoring where our accounts are, and we kind of know how that's gonna end out then this year, that's something I just want you all to be aware of, that while we can fix all these different levels, that's one that's probably always gonna be out there. And if we decided collectively that we're okay to saying 35,000 is the price we're gonna eat because we feel passionate about doing this for kids, then that's where it is, right? Or do we say it's not really a good practice of taxpayer dollars and we need to do something else? So I just kind of want you to be thinking about that kind of, as we've got time, right? This is November, but just kind of be thinking about that and examining, just to take a look at that, because our goal, right, from Moses and my standpoint, is at the end of the year to come up with ways to continue to get to where the budget is whole in all accounts, moving forward with our CDs healthy, with our local healthy, right? Just have a good fiscal management of the dollars. And so that's why I want us on the same page with it. So we just have a good plan.
And one of the things we talked about in our producer partnership meetings is if we can get some cattle donated, that the producer partnership beef could be used on Support
Yeah.
Fridays to offset that cost and to send kids that don't have food at home off into a weekend with some really good protein.
Yes.
So that if we could get that program really up
I didn't
and
promote
running.
that though. I mean, we've got signs up that say producer partnership, but I mean, without them really knowing the ins and outs of what they're supporting, I don't know if ranchers are gonna, I mean, we gotta like, yeah, we gotta send letters to them, but I mean, how do you promote it to be just a Support Friday thing, not an everyday thing?
I don't know that it's necessarily being promoted as just a Support Friday thing. The idea.
That's what I mean, I think it should be,
Oh,
is in the sense that it should be.
I was even thinking like this, what a
Mhm.
great thing to get to the community. There's this many kids might donate. We could definitely use some, because I think forward facing, the community sees Support Fridays as a wonderful thing. And if you pull it away, you'd have to do a lot of education to why.
Gotcha.
It's good enough.
I think too, like, as I kind of, and it's interesting because I haven't thought about it this way, but because we're having back-to-back conversations about it, it kind of just occurred to me. And, on one hand, we're saying our activities is over budget, but hey, that's the cost of having successful teams. It is what it is. We live where we live. We're trying to figure it out, but we're at a deficit. We've been at over $100,000 deficit. And we said, oh, it is what it is. We're going to try and do better. But when we have over almost half of our kids voluntarily showing up for school on a day they don't have to come, their academics are better, their behavior has been better, their attendance has been better. And we look at that 35, we think, well, maybe we should just get rid of this whole thing versus saying, well, maybe this is a cost of having kids that are going and getting extra support to do better in school. And maybe this is part of being a culture of excellence. And we're going to try and figure this out and do better. But I don't want to get into a position where we're like, well, it's okay if the activities do it, but not okay if we're feeding hungry kids on a day they chose to come to school to do extra work.
Oh, yeah. No,
You know what I mean? So I just want to
100%.
be careful in that messaging too. Like,
Yeah.
I want to be good stewards of taxpayer money and I want to figure out a solution to this problem. But I don't, to echo what Kelly's saying, I don't want to
Yep.
throw something out that is benefiting our students either because we haven't figured it out yet.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I go to with, then as you can see with our team in both those areas, where we figured out all these solutions to it down to a certain point in either area. And then in that either area, we have to decide, same be true for activities.
Right.
Are we gonna cut a couple activities, which is, is gonna be a big ticket deal? Are we gonna cut Sport Fridays, which also could be a big ticket deal? But those two areas are ones that we can probably problem solve down to a certain level.
Yeah.
And then we have to probably just make a decision that it's important to us that we're gonna just roll with it.
Well, and the interesting thing is,
If we wanna keep it.
yeah, by the spring of 27, there's a lot of things coming to the legislature
is.
in the next
Yes.
session
There is.
that could bring a lot of money into schools.
Yes.
But we have no idea how that's gonna
I
play
know,
out.
yeah,
Or
But
if
you're
it'll
right.
be 5 years, or if it'll be 50 years.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and Kristen, part of that is our school foods for a long time was 150 to 180,000.
I know, so that's what I wanna recognize, like.
Like they've done a lot,
better.
but another part of it is a lot of those kids aren't there voluntarily. When they're in sports, some of those coaches are there's mandatory, or you go. Like at the middle school, they're required to go to those things like coaches.
Which isn't a bad thing.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but a lot of those kids go there because coach tells them they have to. They sit there and they read a book for 4 hours. A lot of it isn't. A lot of those kids are not getting a single thing out of a support Friday.
They're reading the book, they're getting something out of it.
There's a lot of things that they could be doing outside of that support Friday. But they're not every kid that's there is there voluntarily. And you see it at our middle school numbers, when you go to track season, our middle school numbers go really high because there's an extreme amount of kids in track.
My daughter's been in track and she hasn't been required to go to support Fridays at the middle school. By the coach.
That's what I've heard, is that they're required to go.
No cross
Hasn't been my
country.
experience. But, I mean, I hear what you're saying, Tim. I just, if you look at the trends and what the administrators and building principals are showing us, those numbers and the data that we're looking at has improved since we've done this. And I can say that because I was one of the biggest critics of this calendar and support Fridays. And you know that. But I will wholeheartedly recognize that everything we've seen since we've done it has been an improvement.
And I do have the numbers for every support Friday that we've had. And I'll keep track.
Always log them.
We got them from 23 on. I just put in the numbers from last week. But
So year to year, does it increase or does it stay about the same?
it really ebbs and flows. Like our first support Friday we had this year was the highest number we've ever had. It was also a high school homecoming, so they were decorating the hallways.
So.
So I mean, I put little notations in there too. Like
Right.
high school homecoming.
Kind of knows, like.
Yeah, my parent teacher conferences, just so when we look
Yeah,
at it,
market.
we have
Yeah.
like this is the end of the quarter or the trimester. And so just when we go to look at things, it's nice to have a little jog of your memory onto why they're larger or smaller potentially. I mean, that's just a guess, but
Yeah, and then we use the support Friday at the elementary for parent teacher conferences. So I mean, like, that's gonna lower your, there's factors into all of those different ones. I'm not
The
saying
Friday
that
after
support Fridays have
yes.
not been useful, because they have.
which we
I
didn't
think,
have this year, thankfully.
I know.
I think we've seen something that most schools don't ever see, that go to a 4-day. And that we
Well,
didn't,
when we had that survey with all the schools that came in, they all said they dropped it because there was no attendance.
right,
So, but I think that like you're saying, it's going opposite of what.
even like out at Rocky Boy, they're doing support Friday.
I don't know how theirs is structured. I think it's like talking to Scott. It's a little different than how we do ours.
Yes, I don't know how it's structured.
Yeah,
They had 50 the first time,
yeah.
and then I think they had 100 the second.
They have 118 kids.
Third time.
That's well, maybe it was 100. It was 18.9% of their kids age is what it amounted to. It's 18.9%.
But
I
I mean,
don't
even
know.
with the cost of it, you don't have to get rid of the support Fridays, but maybe we could lessen a couple here and there. And bring down the number of total support Fridays.
To bring down the cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like at the high school, those kids seem to use them a lot at the end of the quarter and at midterms. Outside of those, unless it's homecoming, maybe.
Hey,
But I mean, we could look at it,
Oh, yeah, no.
look at it at the end of the year and say, here are our high numbers, here are where we are gonna want support Fridays.
Yeah,
Maybe we could drop a dozen of them throughout the year to where.
well, we only have.
We don't have to drop.
But I mean, you could drop a few to cut the cost.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because and Tyler, too, on your point on what you're saying too, I mean, that was one of the things too that was talked about is, do you go with one versus two?
Yeah.
Right. So then you're effectively reducing that to once a month, lowering the cost, but we're still keeping the program up and working for our kids as opportunities when they needed to keep driving the train. So
Maybe at the end of the quarter that month, we do two.
And they're very strategic.
Yeah.
Well, we try to
On
do
the
that.
calendar committee, we spent a lot of time on
mhm.
doing this.
This last time, we looked at that
Mhm.
and putting like two really close together, if I remember right, didn't seem to help.
No,
So you just put one at the end of the quarter and one at midterm, and the elementary kids are gonna get that benefit regardless, right?
Yeah.
But your middle school and high school have where they're synced together on quarters.
but I
And
mean,
so
the more
there-
we do this, the more we can see the most beneficial days compared to the ones that aren't used as often. And we can make adjustments every year.
Yeah, because this year we.
We got our first calendar meeting coming
Did
up
we
next
cut
month.
3? Is that
Yeah,
what we
we
had?
were 4, I thought. We
I
cut
think maybe
With the-
three.
with the parent teacher conferences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We cut
We
3.
cut the one before Christmas,
Yep.
2 parent teacher conferences.
But 6-8 still has it for parent
Right.
teacher conferences. I mean, K-5 has parent teacher conferences during those days, but 6th through 8th graders have support Fridays.
Yeah, 6 through 12.
6 through 12.
6
sorry.
through 12 still have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they
So we-
still have
So is it-
supports.
How many do we have
I want to
this year?
say maybe this year,
We have 14.
yeah, 14 this year, and we had
15 last year.
I thought we cut by more than that.
I think it was one
Let
total
me
at
count.
Christmas, Tim, and then the other one was because of the elementary offsetting with the conferences, so it seemed like 3, but
And we had to
in
move that.
reality, yeah,
I remember they said don't put it by holiday.
Yeah.
right, and then there was. no
14 this year.
So,
So there could be some cost offset by, going to, even if we went with a model of 1 a month, right, if we ran 9. Or, yeah, you know what I mean, something like that, that would also offset the cost more, which, like you're saying too, Kevin, right, making those adjustments to the kitchen and Lincoln to the high school and stuff, and you kind of get to where maybe you get into a system that really works for the long haul, that you can predict a little bit better and isn't always in the negative.
So what percent of the people that support Fridays now are gonna be happy with having fewer of them?
It's tough, I mean, I don't think we really,
Yeah.
we just hear from the union end on the staff, so that's tough to know, right? Because according to like when Kristen and Tim were with Holly and Moses and I, it sounds like every teacher would gleefully nod, but we know that's not true. Right, so we know that's not true. That not all staff feels that way at all, but it's one we haven't, rolled out.
We haven't certified it in 2 years.
yeah.
And we have between a sixth and a third of our students coming.
Mhm.
Probably.
We haven't done a survey on it since we did the calendar, correct?
No,
We did the year after we did the calendar, we resurveyed that to say like, are you happy with this? After they had gone a year with the support.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that as we're having this conversation, that's another piece is as we go into next month, we're gonna start calendar meetings. And then that brings up the point of that could be a time putting together the new calendar is to kind of have some knowledge and maybe, we could have that first meeting kind of decide maybe a preliminary. And then if we wanted, we could run a survey, get some more feedback on it before we then finalize the calendar. Because if we're gonna do like a 2-year calendar,
Didn't we already approve a 2-year calendar?
this is the end of it this year.
Oh, okay.
So, or we could just do a 1-year calendar until we get through negotiations in the spring of next year. And then after we have that kind of funneled into the CBA, we can then do another.
And it'd be great to do a 3-year CBA and a 3-year calendar,
So we kind of get to where you don't have to do it all. Right. But
like we used to.
yeah, a little
That'd be
more
fabulous.
longevity.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Well, and it'd be nice to have them in sync with one another
Yes.
because the
That would
calendar
be super nice.
is then getting pulled into the negotiations. So then if you change the calendar in your committee, then that can potentially have impacts on the CBA.
Right.
And I would really like to not have to come back to the negotiating table this spring.
Yeah.
Correct. And so that's the advantage of maybe doing the 1-year calendar, Kristen,
Yeah.
is that then